If ever your life could be a true crime podcast episode, then this podcast is for you. We're about to embark on a roller coaster of emotions, insights, survival, and stories about escape. So buckle up and let the journey begin.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back into the Escape Pod. I'm Julie.
I'm Charity.
With my glasses on, and they're a little
I know,
weird
it's kind
under
of
my
throwing me
headset.
off.
It's throwing me off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to introduce our special guests?
I would love to introduce our special guests. We have Jamie Kirsch and Miriam Iams today from the Rapid City Police Department's Community Engagement Team, doing some more like non-traditional police work, really trying to get at the root causes of the things that the police department ends up having to respond to frequently. And so it's that long game, and we'll let them, they're probably going to say it way better than I am, but really trying to address solutions just like we do here at One Heart. So we're really excited to have you ladies here today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely.
And just to be clear, you're not actually police officers.
That's correct.
So how do you describe yourselves?
We describe ourselves as personnel at the police department who are non-law enforcement. We have folks like Miriam who are considered case managers or social workers, and I'm a project manager myself.
Okay, very cool. Before we get into the topic with you guys today and start talking about, you know, how you do the work that you do and some of the pros and cons of that work, if you will, do you want to talk about what you're escaping from today, Charity? This is kind of our formula, ladies. We have to. We're in our little bubble here for like an hour, where we get to escape some of the crazy. What are you escaping?
Well, right now it's got to be the back crap. So, like, my back issues are flaring up again at a time when I can least afford it. And you know, physical therapy has been going great for years. I mean, I've been like peak, just recovered. All this stuff is great. And out of the blue, and I don't know what I did. I have no good story. I have nothing. And so I was literally sitting in Anita's office today, and I went to get up from one of those chairs and went, So I don't know if it's just old or bulging discs or what, but it's just BS. And I have this very long trip to Minnesota tomorrow.
Let's make up a story. You were like windsurfing, weren't you? Or
I was
something,
trying to
parasailing.
Do the splits or get my leg behind my head. I'm moonlighting as a contortionist. It didn't work out well.
Okay. All right. There you go.
Are you buying
Let's
it?
go with that.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, it is. I can imagine what the possibilities
I actually
could be.
can do the splits, but
Can you?
yeah.
Oh,
So that wasn't
I
really
don't know
it.
if I could ever do them without being forced.
Actually, I think what I did was I went on a purging spree when I was on winter, back from the holidays thing.
Oh.
And I must have known that I'm going to be doing this for my mother-in-law's home the rest of the month. I'm leaving tomorrow. And so I must have like subconsciously knew this was coming. And I just started like making sure every drawer, every closet, everything in my home office, that closet just had a lot of things from like my previous coaching business, and I mean just stuff, office supplies that I'm never going to use again, and just a bunch of stuff. And so as I was clearing that out, I mean, I had big garbage bags and they were heavy.
Yeah.
And so I'm chucking big. Yeah. So that's probably what did it, now that I really have to think about it.
Catching up with you.
Yeah. So
Miriam, Jamie, anything you're escaping from today? It can be, mine is often the school drop-off zone. That makes the list often.
yeah, it could be stupid people like this little
Like the
calendar
memes
thing
that we
says,
see
yeah.
or have on our calendars. Anything specific you're hiding from while you're in here with us?
Well, I just recovered from this, but everything was going around the daycare, so I continued to have to rotate with my daughter's father taking time off of work because it was just the tummy bug that never ended, and it has since passed, but going a little stir crazy. So happy to be shaking up the environment out of the house. Yes,
Gotcha.
For sure. Jamie, what are you escaping from?
Well, I am moving next week, and so the logistics of getting the movers arranged, the closing, getting the people in for the flooring, it is exhausting. And so it is nice to be in a space where I don't have to think about that for an hour.
We are so glad.
Okay,
you're
we won't
in
bring it
this
up again.
God, yeah, we'll let it go.
We'll do our best.
Yeah, I think I would like to escape my glasses because these are going to bother me today. But my eyes have been so dry, I had to take out my contacts. So neither here nor there. That's just life when you have bad eyesight. Okay, are we talking? I did not prep with Charity on this at all.
I didn't prep at all either.
Oh, okay.
I was
so
just like,
I was going to
okay,
say,
so
are we
here's how it
talking
happened.
trauma or are we
Nope.
talking happy stories?
Here's how
or
it
are we
happened
doing both?
because you've met my husband, Jamie, and works with four. I don't know how this works anymore. Things have changed so many times. Okay, they work with my husband, and I don't know. He started telling me a story about a teenager and like this success trajectory, and I went, "Oh, that's like so cool!" I want to hear those kinds of things. And then I'm like, "Would they want to come on the podcast?" So
Yes.
that's how that happened. Getting at the root of like how we are approaching. Reaching out with these, like, I don't know how you categorize them. Like in our work, we'd call them high crisis families, and trying to find solutions. And you start to see that this work that it's really slow start to take off and produce results and hope, and trying to break those cycles, I think can be really, really rewarding. So we would love to hear about it, especially from, police department's perspective. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I can sort of start with the origin of how we came to kind of develop this team. It was really kind of through a series of fortunate events, I guess, and grants that were able to help us kind of think outside the box and kind of be innovative. We started with a grant that was really focused on community-based crime reduction, and I was able to hire somebody who is a graffiti artist by trade, and we really started honing in on a neighborhood here in Rapid City that generates the highest volume of calls that are violent in nature. And the model is really focused on really working with residents, working with the young people in those neighborhoods to create environments that where people care about public safety, where they want to be invested in what their neighborhoods look like and the safety of their children, and creating a base, right, where people can feel safe to talk about these things. And so over the last 4.5-5 years now, in that Knollwood community, we have established a clubhouse that has been renovated with generous support from our community partners, businesses, and churches. We have an on-site food pantry, a new basketball court that's been put in, and the calls for service in that neighborhood specific to violence have been reduced by over 50% in the last
That's
3.5
amazing.
years.
Wow.
Yes. So in addition to that, we were also able to secure a separate grant that allowed us to create what we call a youth outreach team. And that team is staffed with 3 non-uniformed officers who are trauma-informed, and we now have a case manager, Miriam, and we also have a embedded case manager from Children's Home Society that's got access to advanced
Far out.
behavioral health resources.
Oh, is that Marty?
Yeah.
Correct,
Oh,
yeah.
fantastic.
Yes.
Okay.
And so with this work now that we're fully staffed, especially, we get referrals directly from law enforcement officers who, as they're responding to calls for service, are identifying these families who are in crisis and need more help to prevent that further escalation into the criminal justice system or those repeat calls for service that officers see. And we then, I'll let Miriam talk more about what she does, but we just basically wrap around these families and support them as we navigate them to the resources in the community, like at One Heart.
Awesome.
Yeah, and so jumping in, the work that we're doing is not a quick fix. Like on patrol, they're showing up at a
Can
scene
relate.
and they can hand a brochure out or make an arrest or break something up or make a quick referral. But the work that we do takes a lot of time planting seeds. Sometimes it's navigating, maybe we're providing a youth with a scholarship so they have a more positive channel. Maybe we're connecting someone with services, but maybe there's a waiting list for 6 months long. So then we're navigating with other partners. Maybe by the time the family receives their spot on the wait list, they're not answering the phone. Maybe their phone number's changed twice. So then I'm working behind the scenes with the community partner to say, would you give them another shot? Sometimes it's me motivating a parent when we know that the youth maybe needs some extra support. And it really just depends, and there's such a variety of different things. But the work that we do might take a series of time. It might take lots of behind-the-work emails, calls, meetings. But a lot of the work that we're doing is really paying off. We're having youth, completely transforming. We're having youth that are now connected with services. We're having youth that are stabilizing. We're having houses that used to generate some of the highest volumes of calls for service that now have had no calls for service in months.
Wow.
So our team is able to do some of that work that takes a little bit more time.
If I recall, I think, and I think it was this team. Tim was talking about how looking at like the youth who have the highest calls for service, and at first I don't know if that's still the case, if we've picked all of them off the list and gotten them handled, just because it's a long process, right? Yeah. But going after and targeting those families first for additional support, is that accurate? Okay.
Yeah, we use a series of different ways to identify youth that are at higher risk. One, of course, is that initial referral from the officer who's identified a need for our team's support. But we also look at a report on a weekly basis called the All Juveniles Involvement Report, and that will tell us, what youth in our community are having frequent interactions with law enforcement without needing to rely on a referral. We also have our Handle with Care program, which was kind of like our anchor program in partnership with the Rapid City Area School District. This allows us, law enforcement officers, to identify youth who have been exposed to traumatic events and then notify the school district without disclosing any of the details of that trauma to let them know that the youth would really benefit from a supportive environment when they do return to the school. We also use that report, which we get daily, to identify youth who are receiving more than one Handle with Care notification in a short period of time, which indicates, right, that there are additional needs in the home, stabilizing, but certainly that mental health support to overcome those exposures.
So like I think back to when I was a kid, believe it or not, I ended up in school jail a lot. But, reacting and lashing out because of things that are happening at home. So I would imagine that it's just kind of like we're not going to tell you what's going on, but it's going to kind of provide an explanation for perhaps any kind of behavior that they might exhibit in the classroom or on the grounds. So they just know, like, okay, something else bigger than school is going on in this child's life.
Yeah, we actually had a teacher actually had reached out to us shortly after we had launched the Handle with Care program. The teachers love it, by the way.
And I can imagine.
Yeah, they are in contact with us pretty frequently. The contact we have at the school district who helps us manage the communication chain with the various different schools. And one teacher was getting pretty frustrated with a 10-year-old boy who was consistently for weeks just falling asleep in class. Aww. And at some point down the road, 3 weeks later, this young person gets a Handle with Care notification, and it totally changed the teacher's perspective and how to address that issue. And she basically started letting this 10-year-old sleep for the first few hours of class, and it had totally changed his ability to participate. He was participating in class, asking for help with his homework. It had totally transformed the way that this young person was interacting with that school environment, which, as you guys know, it just increases the amount of success that young person then has in their school and future career, right? And so I think it has the ability, just that simple notification, to totally change a person's life.
Well, I mean, I don't know what was going on in that child's life, but an example would be something going on in the home where they cannot comfortably close their eyes. They have to be hypervigilant. Something's going to happen because if they close their eyes, something might happen, right? Mm-hmm. That just...
Yeah, something as simple as that Handle with Care notification can allow a teacher to go into more of that reactive and observant mode.
Like, I want to care for this child. Yeah.
And it can make all the difference, even something as small as that perspective change.
So did the teachers go through a training when this was rolled out? Okay. And then is that ongoing? Like every year they get another dose of training?
It was actually a really cool partnership that I had with the school district. And basically they designed a special Handle with Care training, and they provided it to all school staff at the start of the school year when we had launched this program. And we also trained all law enforcement officers. They are required, both with the county as well as the city, to take ACEs training, 4-hour course, in addition to an hour-long Handle with Care course as well. And we go to shift briefs to remind officers how important this program is.
Awesome.
And ACEs, as a reminder for our listeners, is adverse childhood experiences. So that's what they're referring to when we talk about ACEs. So those are lovely stories. I would imagine, though, sometimes the reception early on in your contact with people is more challenging. Can you talk about that a little bit and how you navigate it.
Sure. I think not all families, in fact, a lot of families are not thrilled when law enforcement is calling or showing up. Shocking that sometimes it's not positive. But so sometimes it's continual building that trust, or that's why it's a unique opportunity that on our team we have 3 non-uniformed law enforcement officers, but also those of us who are not. So sometimes a mom in trauma might be more receptive to connecting with me as a caseworker. Just, hey, I'm another mom willing to get coffee and show you some support. And then once we've broken down that trust or built that trust a little bit, she's more receptive to maybe meeting with me in tandem with an officer or vice versa.
Simple,
we
right,
work
easy.
as a team a lot, just based on
takes
who's in
time.
front of us. Where sometimes maybe a 16-year-old boy might be more likely to connect with one of the officers. Sometimes an auntie or a grandma or a mom might be more inclined to sit down for coffee with me. But we work together as a team a lot and navigate. And part of it is building that trust. And I think there's a reassurance too, and almost a relief. They know that we know. So it's not that they're wondering.
There's not a secret.
Yeah, like, well, do they know about everything that's going on? It's like they know that we know, and a lot of them are just relieved to talk about it and have somebody who cares. And so that's
They don't have to hide it
No.
or be ashamed or whatever. Yeah.
I think also the goal of our team isn't just to like wait for that referral, like our proactive efforts in those neighborhoods that experience those higher rates of violence where law enforcement has a more active presence. We're there with our non-uniform officers and our staff building positive relationships with young people. Our officers are also in the school weekly. They're doing this really cool Rocket curriculum, which helps kids understand public safety from a second grader's perspective, right? And it's really kind of in that rapport building at a really young age that helps then when there are calls in the future, or maybe as adults they're interacting with that criminal justice system, they have these seeds that we've planted with them to refer back to know that we're there to help, regardless of whether we're wearing a uniform or not.
Right.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because some of our officers are going to places like JSC or the Circle or lots of different places within the community just to have coffee with a cop or just conversations. And so for a lot of young people or even just community members at large, it gives them the opportunity to really just get to know law enforcement on a different level that's maybe not in the height of crisis. And so that really can help down the road.
It's huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know the VOA used to do a camp postcard. And my husband was heavily involved in that for years, and taking, again, at-risk youth, I think it was all middle school age, bringing them out in the woods for a week, and doing all kinds of activities and stuff. And they know they're law enforcement, but they don't see them in uniform until the graduation ceremony.
She's choking up, folks.
I don't ever do that. What are you talking about? But But the number of kids that stay tied to the person, like their cop that they imprinted on. And now, like, we're at the age where a lot of these kids are grown up, and it makes a difference.
Yeah.
It really does.
Can you all share some of your most challenging starts that turned into some of your best finishes? And I would guess they end up not really being a completed case, because those are probably the people you continue to have a relationship with. But do you want to share a couple of those for us?
I mean, I'll just start off first, and Miriam's got some really great stories with a young lady who we have been building a relationship with, I think, for the past year. She came to us as a referral as a 10-year-old, and she's just really struggled with her mother with addiction, and now recently a brain surgery, living with grandparents and not going to school and just being really disconnected from the service community. And she more recently was really struggling with addiction at the age of 11. And, we can see what that trajectory looks like, right? But she's young. She likes to hang out with her friends. She likes makeup, and connecting with one of our officers just wasn't, something she was interested in at the time. But over time, Dean is the officer's name. Yeah, he just really developed this young vibe relationship and just really great rapport with this young person, which then opened the door eventually for our CHS embedded partner, Marty, to help then get her into inpatient treatment. And it took 3 times.
I think this was the story Tim was
Yes.
telling me about. Yeah.
Yes, it took 3 times, and lots of snacks and McDonald's. And Journey On was who is our native-led partner and does youth mentorship with some of our higher risk cases. And they facilitate what we call a credible messenger program. People who have lived experience who can really connect with those who are in an inactive crisis with addiction or houselessness. And it was really the combination of Dean, our officer, Marty, our CHS expert, and Journey On providing this intensive mentorship over weeks around Christmas, which is trying to leave around that holiday time.
Big ask,
also,
but
yeah. But it happened. They drove all the way across the state, got her into inpatient care, and she's been there now for 2 weeks, and she's thriving.
That's awesome.
Yay.
Yeah.
I know every time Tim starts talking about it, I'm like, can they get into One Heart? Can they get into One Heart? Despite the fact we have a waiting list, but can they get into One Heart? Like, yeah.
And Miriam has even better stories with moms and
I mean, there's so many different ones to choose from. But yeah, our starts are not always easy. Sometimes they're bumpy, sometimes they're challenging. But sometimes it's just that we're being proactive because we see a family maybe where there's lots of calls to service to the house. So I had been working with a family where they were generating some of the highest volume of calls in one sector of the city. And the mom was not as receptive in the beginning. And sometimes how do we reach the youth if the family's not really as open
it's
to
like a barrier. Sure.
Lots of like canceled appointments and different things and months of playing phone tag. But then sometimes that's where that trust and that relationship building comes in. I just continued to work with mom and finally sat down and tried to figure out what makes her tick. How can I motivate you? What will be a reward where we can focus on? And we decided to set some goals for mom, and then we remotivated her. And some of those services that had said, we're no longer able to help the family, they've canceled too many times, I was able to work behind the scenes and say, will you give them another chance? And now flash forward a couple months later, all 3 of the kids are doing therapy and one-on-one mentorship, and they're partaking in scholarships, and they are working with Journey On, which is our native-led partner, and they are, having people beside them as they navigate through the system, and mom is thriving, and it can make such a difference sometimes, not giving up on a family and continuing to call and plant those seeds and have those meetings and just be someone who cares and who continues to check in, and parents, everyone, the whole family needs support.
Well, and to be an extra advocate, because we actually talked just in the last one of our recent episodes about the importance of social capital. And sometimes people don't have it. And sometimes if they have it, they lose it. And that's a really good example of, she had probably multiple opportunities with multiple human services agencies, and they too get frustrated, and you ended up being a conduit to get them back into the system, which is fantastic. But they do, a lot of people, they kind of wear out their welcome, right? And so, and we can all, I feel like that's a very human thing to do. Like, yes, we want to give second chances, but then you're on third chances, fourth chances, fifth chances. And it is easy to want to give up. So kudos for keeping on it. Yeah. You had a thought?
Well, I was just going to ask, as you finally see someone making progress, have you ever had any of these parents acknowledge, like, wow, they get it now? Have you? Like, tell us about that.
I mean, I feel like we have parents all the time who are just telling me, thank you so much for everything you're doing with our family. I think for sometimes it's as simple as that we answer the calls, we answer the texts. Thank you for getting my kids into this activity. Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you. I had a parent tell me, thank you for not giving up on me, because I wish everyone else could believe in me the way that you do, because I think everyone else just thinks that I'm a failure or something along those lines.
I see that a lot.
I think that in the community service partnership and community, we forget sometimes that these clients need somebody to be in their corner and believe in them. And I've had quite a few clients just say, thank you for not giving up on me, and thank you for believing in me. And we understand that the road's bumpy, and we're here for the whole thing, not just
but
the
that's
times
their
when
world
it's
model,
going
right?
well. Absolutely.
Their histories are people saying, okay, you didn't fit nicely into my box, therefore I'm going to give up on you. I'm going to reject you. I'm going to, cast you aside, whatever that looks like. And if you live a lifetime of that pattern, it becomes ingrained. People start to believe that they're inherently flawed. And then if they're inherently flawed, why bother, right? And then, here's my kids are going to grow up the same way. And, it's not that they want that for their children. It's that, what's the point? So that's just really, really powerful.
What else you got?
We could talk a bit about some more of our work in the neighborhood intervention realm. We obviously are happy with the sort of immense amount of success that we've had in the Knollwood neighborhood, where we've been able to reduce crime by over 50%. And so we were able to secure a grant recently through Johns Hopkins University to take that model on the road and go into another neighborhood where we hope to have the same type of impact. Star Village, as you guys know, is very geographically separated from our community, and for years has served as a hotspot for blight and calls for service, and easily rises to the top in our current sort of stats as the highest, the neighborhood that is afflicted with the highest number of violent calls for service. We, over the summer, did 8 different outreach events just to introduce ourselves to the community, get to know them a bit better. It's a lot easier to come and do an intervention in a neighborhood with the residents when they know the faces, they know the names. And we also, at the end of the summer, in September, in partnership with United Way, had 88 city employees, including the mayor, the chief of police, and city council members, remove 35.5 tons of trash from the neighborhood.
Wow.
Yeah. But that's just from decades of disinvestment and, a neighborhood that was once very beautiful, suffering at the hands of, in some cases, people who just also have lost that hope in the neighborhood as a whole.
Well, and it's for those who listen from away from here, it's a prime location as far as like you can't beat the views from that spot. So it's kind of
on a
amazing.
hill in the middle of the community, like just this hill all by itself.
Yes, and it's a lovely area, but for some of the, kind of decades of abuse that it's taken.
Well, fun fact, like when I was a little kid, my grandmother lived on Franklin Street, which is on the south side of that hill. And so I remember when we'd come to visit her back in those days, in the 70s, there was a big Star Village illuminated sign, right?
Yeah.
And I would walk to the end of the street and kind of like look up that hill and just think, this is the coolest thing ever, like that village on the hill. And,
Yeah. People still talk about that.
Yeah.
A lot of the residents still talk about that sign. And it did, I think, served as a source of inspiration for people, this beautiful sign. And I think the potential in Star Village is incredible, right?
Yeah.
People are invested. We, during the course of those 8 outreach events, we come to know families who would help us come and set up and tear down, little 3-year-olds who would help us with setting up the water station, with the sprinklers. And it's through that rapport building where we are now working with a family one-on-one. 8 children in the home. They had been houseless before moving into their home in Star Village for years. And due to an instance of domestic violence, all 8 children were removed from the home, and it is difficult. And so we've been working with this family now for the past 3 months, and Mom now has a job. Mom has all of her identifying documents. She's prepared for her court appearances. She makes all her meetings to her meetings with her children. The foster parent is actively working with the mom, and we are so hopeful to reunite this family. Mom's taking care of her home. It is just, being able to introduce ourselves like that and start building that rapport, it then yields this result of being able to work with these families one-on-one to prevent the evictions, to prevent the, the history of domestic violence that left unaddressed becomes, right, what tears this family apart eventually. Yeah. So, we're excited about what we can do in Star Village and in other communities if this model helps us continue to get the results that we do get.
So because you're working with youth so much, I have to ask, what are some of the funniest things some of those kiddos have said and done?
Well, there was an incident with macaroni and cheese, no?
Yes. Officer Skane and I were helping a family, and sometimes it's easier, we just put them in the car with us, and we have a day where we just go around and take care of some resources. And at one of the community partners, they offered us some food. We should have realized probably giving food to a young person in the back seat of the truck was maybe not the best plan, but it'd been a long day. And by the end of the day, there was macaroni thrown out of the truck. It almost hit both of us in the face, and we got a lot of resources taken care of, but we spent a good while cleaning
Cleaning
that
it
truck
up.
out for other team members.
Yeah.
So it was a whole plate of food. It was
Well, I mean,
not
it
just
could
the
be
macaroni.
aerodynamic. I mean, it might
Yeah.
fly. Maybe my future scientist.
Yeah.
It doesn't smell good on day 3, though. So
Yeah.
Oh. I had a hard no milk policy in my car after bottles were gone
Probably a good
because
plan.
of that very reason. And even now I tell the kids, like, oh my gosh, if they have like chocolate milk from something, I'm like, whatever you do,
Don't you open it.
do not
Yeah.
leave that in here.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's classic. Any other good ones?
some serious lessons were learned that day. Well, we talk a lot about Officer Skane, Dean Skane, because he is himself a young person.
Okay.
And we call him the kid whisperer because no
Oh,
matter
for sure.
what kid or what
Yes.
age, he just has this innate ability to connect with kids. And he'll bring kids, like Miriam will go talk with the mom. Dean will take the kids off and they'll go play. And I've walked into the conference room in the back and there have been murals of drawings that the kids are writing. We love Officer Skane and anime pictures that they've been drawing. And it's really cool to see an officer like him connect with kids the way he does. And they really, recently, not recently, I guess, just before Christmas, he came in contact with the family because he had seen them outside waiting at a bus stop without coats on.
Oh, my.
And a single mom with 2 very young children. And he just pulls over and says, hey, you guys need help? And they did. So he brought them up to the mall.
Yeah.
We got them coats, we got them winter gear, and they are still working on, in fact, I think it's a referral that Dean's working on with One Heart, and there's, other work that's being done. But yeah, he's just a really lighthearted, good human being.
Yeah, he's really magnetic and just connects with the youth right away, as do a lot of our other officers,
Oh, yeah.
but especially Dean. He's just
Kind of a
one
kid
of
at
a kind.
heart.
Kind of
Yeah.
a kid at heart,
Yeah.
which can be really helpful sometimes because sometimes if
Sure.
there's something where I need to talk with a mom, but the kids are bouncing around, it can be
That
really effective.
never
where
happens,
it
Miriam.
Never happens. It never
when
happens.
you're trying to have an
But
important
Dean
conversation.
and I have tag teamed to where
Sure.
he grabs the kids, I talk with mom, and
Do you have a look? Do you give 2 blinks if you need to be
sometimes we just wing it and jump in the car together, and we know that we're going to help a family, and we can kind of just intuitively, we as a team work so well together that we can really pick up the pieces and jump in where needed without even really having to talk about what the game plan is, which is also, I think, the beauty of just a close-knit, smaller team, and we're all willing to jump in where needed.
He's the type of person who doesn't give a second thought to setting up a massive slip and slide with a sheet of plastic and a bottle of dish soap and whatever kid can slide the longest competitions, and we've got great pictures of kids just having an absolute blast at slip and slides and all sorts of fun events. Yeah.
Well, the next time we have a One Heart guest who requests a slip and slide in our courtyard, we'll know who to call.
Yeah.
You need to find Officer Skane.
Rent a
'cause- Yes, and hit up Star Village or something to get, because we did have somebody in charities like, I'm going to have to say no. We don't need any broken arms here on the One Heart campus.
No.
Well, ladies, anything else you want to add?
No, we're just
It has
thankful
been a
we could
joy to have you here.
For having
and
us.
Yeah, and we
great
were just talking
stories.
about it and not sure how many people in the community really know about this. So we wanted to help bring some exposure to that work. And I'm obviously a big fan of the non-traditional police work. And I think it's so cool when you find those gems of human beings that can also break the stereotype of a traditional cop. We've noticed that here at One Heart with particularly our moms and our kids have learned to trust men again because of the staff we have here in our life safety group, that it's not all men that are monsters and dangerous and a big threat. So I think there's so many ancillary effects and impacts of the work that's not tied to the work, but that are going to be tied to the results of the work down the road. One question I do have is, because this is working so well and it is a long process, and I'm sure it's hard when there are other families and you can't get to all of them, is there anything in the works on expanding what you're doing and trying to enlarge the team, or?
Yeah, I mean, it would be really great to add more Miriams to our team with the type of expertise that she and Marty actually have. I mean, it's a good question, right? Like, grant funding has been a huge source of support for the
Right.
programming and the innovation. And I would love, to see us add 2 more case managers, maybe even additional officer, but it's all dependent on, sort of the resources.
Funding.
Yeah. But I will say, and I'll just make this a plug for One Heart and the just huge network of resources in the community. We could not do what we do without the ability to connect with resources like One Heart and like West River Mental Health Services, because we're not mental health providers. We
Right.
don't have access to the housing. We need those partners in the community. And so while I love our team and I would love to expand it, I also hope that the service providers in our community who serve in those niche roles that truly change lives get the support, the funding support, and the even city-sponsored support that they need to be successful, because without the network, none of us, even police officers, can't be successful.
Yeah,
Well, I just had a random thought.
Ooh,
If
oh
we
no.
have to, well, okay, rabbit hole time, baby. So
Oh, she's got the look.
I've got the look. If we need to end up chopping this whole section out. But have either of you heard about our new employment platform?
Gravitate?
Yes.
Yes, I just had a meeting with Teresa, I think last week.
Oh, fantastic.
She did a demo.
Okay.
Yeah, she did a demo, and I'm sharing that with our clients.
That's fantastic. So I just wanted to kind of because we were trying to get and I don't know if you guys were on the list. I don't know. It's such a blur, this whole holiday season and stuff. But trying to help our partners understand that you have access to candidates and people who could be utilizing this system. And it's designed to help people hack this middle-class hiring thing and become more attractive and responsive to employers and stand out, right? And and it's predicated on the brain science that we've deployed here at One Heart and implemented in almost everything we do, but taking this to a larger platform. So it's those dopamine hits that make people want to achieve more and more and more. And we're really excited about it. But the bigger picture is to, again, it's like a $30 billion industry that we're trying to hack. And if we do successfully do that, and even if we can carve out 0.5%, we'll never need all those resources. And so our goal is to try to come up with ways to help sustain and grow and expand the work that our partners do, because we need you just as much as you need us. And we worry constantly, not just about One Heart, but we're a collaborative. What happens if our partners can't continue the work that they're doing? I mean, those are things that keep us up at night. So it's more than just how do we fund what we do at One Heart. It's if there's no referral network, or if there's no recipient when we need to outsource something, it all falls apart. And so there's so much writing on it. So I'm really grateful to hear that you are aware of it. And for our listeners, check out gravitate.org. It's slick, all of the problems in the employment industry. If you're a hiring authority, it's going to make your life so much easier in finding candidates and being able to give them feedback that actually helps them learn and grow and evolve. I mean, who doesn't want that? And then from the candidate's perspective, so many times they don't get told what didn't work.
Right.
And so
Why didn't I get hired?
they don't. And then that further, there must be something wrong with me, right? And it's just they don't know what they don't know. And a lot of that was, not a lot of it. I mean, the system was built before this, but I remember Tim talking about an interview for a police officer, and past PT, past written, came in kind of jeans and a dirty denim button-up shirt. And so he's telling me about this, and not in a ridiculing type of, but just it just really sucked because the kid clearly wanted to change his life. You could tell perhaps it wasn't the best upbringing, and really wanted to change. And I'm like, well, what if he didn't have access to laundry equipment? What if he knew it was just a button-up shirt, and that's a button-up shirt? No one ever said not denim, right? Yeah. But there's these things, you don't know the rules you don't know. Yeah, right. And so this system is designed to help people learn that and be able to now I can speak your language, Mr. or Ms. Employer,
Yeah, I think too, when people know they're going to be in a uniform at their job, they also don't realize that still that first impression
Why
is
does
important.
this matter? You're going to give me a uniform,
You're
right?
going to give me a uniform, so how I come to you shouldn't really matter. But our brains make decisions in 7 seconds, right? Like first impressions are almost instantaneous. And anyway, so yeah, I think the thinking going into it and the resources might have been an issue too, but I can see where somebody would not think much of it, you know?
Bigger we can grow it, the faster we can grow it, the more opportunity there is for our whole collective. And we're just really excited about the potential.
I love that because I love that Gravitate allows candidates the opportunity to grow in a way that isn't just punitive, that maybe they had some points held against them.
Yeah.
What can they do to actually
get
utilize that feedback, to be provided that feedback? We live in a society where so often it's private. You're just told you didn't get the job. But to be able to be given that feedback and have the opportunity to improve and then have a score improve, I think that's brilliant. And I invited Teresa, who helps with the Gravitate platform, to a lot of the community partner meetings that I attend, because I want to help you all spread the word as well, because she was saying, where else should I be plugged in? So, because I think it's amazing, and I think the community in general really will benefit from spreading the word.
Approach the concept of employment any different than we approach the case management aspect, right? Like people, if they're not taught these skills in, say, high school, right, or by their own family members, it is a learning process, and you can only learn through that feedback and through that mentorship. And I just love I love the idea that people can get that feedback and try again, and Gravitate can be the thing that gets them that job next time, because it's a point on their, it's something that no other maybe person applying for that job has on their resume to say, I've been through this coaching, or I've gotten this feedback and I've improved myself.
Or maybe they don't have that person in their life to share that feedback with them. We just all take it for granted and assume that people would know certain things, but maybe no one's ever shared that with them before. What do you do when you get a flat tire on the way to an interview? What do you do when X, Y, and Z happens?
Yeah.
Yep. For sure. I also just want to piggyback quickly your comments about working together and the importance of, other resources in the community. And we had one of our funders, and he's not there anymore, so we miss Alan. We still love you. But he commented at our symposium back in August how one of the things he thinks the community doesn't fully realize is how well we do work together. Yeah. There is this impression that we are still very much siloed and we all do our own thing and da-da-da-da-da. And the fact that our community, for the most part, really is very good in the human resources world of working together. Not human resources, in the human services world of working together. And he just said, I think people don't get the level at which that's happening. And I think you proved the point again today that it is happening, and we have tried to fill some important gaps. We still don't do it all, and neither does anybody else. That's why we need each other. Exactly. We do a lot, but there's still those places where we need to plug people in, right? And connectors like you guys help make that happen.
Yeah.
All right. Before we wrap up, if you listen to the podcast, we always say, rather than what we're escaping from, something we would like to escape to or someplace. It can be a mindset. It can be a hobby. It can be whatever you want it to be. Do you want to start?
Well, yeah, because normally I traumatize Julie because we talk a lot about trauma. And then, she's like, I need a palate cleanser, please.
Yes, I always say it. We have to end on a happy note or I'm not doing the podcast.
Well, I think for me, I'm going to be escaping to windshield time.
Yes.
As I drive back to Rochester to pack up my 87-year-old mommy-in-law. Mm-hmm. And although I'm not looking forward to going through her giant house of stuff, this year here at One Heart has just been off to a bang. And I mean, I've been back for 2 weeks and I'm already ready I'm like exhausted. So I'm just looking forward to that 9 hours of the only responsibility I have is to not wreck, right? Just a straight drive.
Don't do that.
Yeah. And
we still need you.
Yeah. Thank you. So that's what I'm escaping to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ladies, something you would like to do or you get to do in the coming days?
Get to do. Well, despite how difficult it can be to manage the logistics of moving.
Awful.
I am so excited for the first time in my adult life to have access to a garage.
Yay!
Yeah. I am so tired of scraping windows and dealing with the snow, and I am so excited. And my kitchen, which currently is a galley kitchen and basically a hallway. If you know me, I spend like 60% of my time in my house in my kitchen, and this new house just has a beautiful, huge kitchen with tons of cupboard space. So that is what I'm escaping to. Yeah.
And it's so ironic. Jamie and I are having similar life stages at the same time, but I just bought my first house a month ago. Better late than never.
Congratulations.
For my daughter and I. And so I worked so hard to get the upstairs done and get Christmas ready for her. But now I'm excited to escape too. Really working hard this weekend on getting the downstairs done. And I also love having a garage for the first time in so long. It's life changing. It's like, oh wait, I didn't have to scrape the car. There's more time in my life. I'm not out there scraping and my daughter's like, Mommy, what are you doing? Trying to come outside.
Remember me?
Yes, exactly. So I get to escape too, just continuing to plant those roots and
Well, if
make my
anybody's
home
a
even
decorator
cozier.
and you want to take a stab at a different person's house,
Julie.
I would welcome you. We moved 2 years ago, almost 2.5.
It's been that long?
Yes, time flies.
Holy
and
moly, lady.
I will tell you, it is still not in the state that I hope it is someday. To be fair, we're not home very much, so there is that. But I could really use some awesome decorating skills. So, where am I escaping to? I know I was just thinking about that. I think the 3-day weekend's coming up, and we have
a 3-day weekend.
Nothing on the calendar.
That was just kind of like rubbing salt into the wound. So
sorry.
thank you very much.
I'm so sorry.
The opposite of a 3-day weekend, I'm going to get a
3 days of working.
18-day stretch of manual labor. So, yeah. Thanks, Julie.
Sorry. I'm sorry I can't help you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jamie and Miriam. Thank you for tuning in and listening. We appreciate each and every one of you. If you like what you heard, please share it with a friend who you think might enjoy it too. We are a small team here doing all the things we jokingly say in our spare time, because we don't have any spare time, but we still do this to help educate the community and, as a little bit of escape from just the day-to-day world that we're in. But one day we really hope to provide operational support for One Heart, the nonprofit where we work, where our mission is empowering people to overcome crisis and achieve self-sustainability.
That's right. It's a true podcast for a cause, so you really can feel good about listening and participating and spreading the word. So please rate and review wherever you listen to your podcasts. It really helps us gain more exposure, and more exposure, more listeners equals more ad revenue. You can check out our website at escapepod.live. You can link out to us on our socials from there. You can reach out to us at justbecause@escapepod.live. Or share your story, whether it's horror in decorating, nightmare, or any cool work that your community is doing. You can share that story with us at escapeartist@escapepod.live.
We are closing the hatch on this episode of the Escape Pod. Remember, trauma may be inevitable, but how you grapple with it is optional. So stay resilient.
And remember to keep laughing.
Bye, everybody.